Hello everyone, and today we'll be interviewing Paul Brooks, who is part of the jobs program with Best Buddies through the job initiative of the YLC. My name is Asma. Today I'll be interviewing with Stephanie, and our interviewee for the day is Paul Brooks. So, Stephanie, do you want to get started with the questions?
What is your job?
I work for the past 7 years. I work at the Bellagio. I work in the gym. I'm a fitness attendant, not a trainer. So my job is to make sure guest interaction, also to help people out with lockers, fold towels, and also help clean the gym and assess people with any type of equipment. If they need help, like on a machine or anything, it's my job to assist to make sure their experience is the most enjoyable, the best one possible.
What made you interested in applying for the gym attendant position?
I was really interested in fitness. I love fitness. And I said, I really want to make a change here. So I said, I'll go ahead and apply. And I wanted to see what I can do and helping out and learn more about the gym and also learn more about other things. So I plan on making a career out of it. So definitely made more interest in the gym, just learning from the other trainers and everyone else on the job. That's what made me interested in applying for the job.
What is the job application process like?
So I found it online. And I applied, and I was at a Best Buddies event at an MGM property. And I met the director and I said, "You're Paul Brooks." I was like, "Yes, I am." He's like, "Would you like, I heard you apply for a gym attendant position at the Bellagio." I was like, "Yes, I sure do." It's like, "Do you want to work there?" I was like, "Yeah." So she helped me, along with the people at Best Buddies, helped me apply for the job application process. It was long. So after I got done submitting everything I needed, like my W-2s, all that stuff that I applied for, then I had to wait another 3 months after apply for a job. 1 month I got hired, and then the next application process, there was two applications that you had to apply for, but you had to pass the first application process to get the two. And then you get the two, then all of a sudden you had to go, there's a third one. So I had to literally it was kind of stressful though, but I had to apply I had to fill out the application maybe 2 or 3 times before I got the job though. But it was a very long application process. It was like probably you had to fill maybe 2 or 3 applications in the span of a 3-month time period.
What was the transition like when you first started your job?
The transition that I first started my job, at first, it was completely different. See, I'm used to working in office. That's all I knew. I worked in office and I worked in retail since I was like maybe about 17. So that it was different standing up, it was different getting up, getting ready at 5 o'clock in the morning, standing and moving around. I wasn't used to that. I'm used to sitting down and doing like paperwork, filing stuff, attending meetings, so the transition, when I first started my job, it was a challenge at first because all the standing and lifting I had to do. But as the months went on, it kind of got better. So it was at first transitioning from sitting down to standing up was a very big challenge for me.
What were the obstacles of your job and how did you get through those obstacles?
The habits I had at the time, I was your typical beginning of your 20s kid. So the biggest obstacle for me was getting up early in the morning. That I'm not a morning person, and I did not like getting up at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning to go to work. I had to get used to it. I had to get used to going to bed earlier. I had to get used to closing everything down earlier and also interacting with people. I had to learn how to work on my social skills in order to interact with my bosses, I had an obstacle there to where, very common in this field, the bosses that made me the bosses that can't understand first. That's my first obstacle, because the reason why, because, it's hard for that boss to fully understand you. And I told my boss the first, maybe like my first couple months I was there, perfect example is transportation. That was an obstacle. Sometimes I can't drive. Sometimes I was late. And I said, listen, my transportation is out of my control. I make them understand that it's going to happen often. It's not going to happen all the time. It's going to happen often. But when it does happen, please have an understanding. So having that obstacle of dealing with different bosses, getting them to understand was kind of one of the most hardest parts at the job. But as I got older and I started to grow more, I started making them understand that during that transition period and how to deal with that obstacle, is making that manager understand in the most politest way if possible. And I had help from Best Buddies too, to help me navigate through transition if the job was going through a transition period, or if I had a new management that did not know I had a disability. Another one was, learning how to talk to people from different countries. I think that's huge in society, is learning how to talk to people from, let's say, for example, when you go from Australia, I used to go like this. Now I go like this, and I had to understand that. I had to understand how to speak. Sometimes I don't know how to speak in different languages sometimes, or I go grab someone that can. And also just learning how to deal with certain people at the gym. And also too, I also had to learn how to let things roll off my shoulders as well. Because I know in jobs, sometimes we don't let things go, but I had to learn how to let things go and keep working, let them know I am doing my job correctly. I also learned how to trust my coworkers. At the beginning, I did not trust my coworkers because the understanding was not always there. So for my buddies, trust your coworkers, but also too, just know, when you talk to them, just understanding, your coworkers will understand you. Some will, some don't. And sometimes, just sit down, talk to them in a respectful manner. If your manager need to be in there for you guys to have understanding to work effectively as a team. And it took me a long time to trust my coworkers, while I learned how to put my guard down a little bit when I started staying there. That's when I started learning how to trust my coworkers. But that trust does not come within 4 to 5 months on the job. It comes within you being at the job for a long time. That you're one of your coworkers and your management's all about. That's where that trust really begins. And another obstacle was, I think, obstacle also I had to deal with was communication. I'm big on communication. And if you can't communicate when you tell me on real time, then I'm not going to be happy. And I used to irritate me when nobody doesn't like last minute surprises or last minute stuff done at the last minute. Nobody does. So I kind of had to tell my managers, like, hey, can you do a better job? Please communicate with me. The communication between your coworkers and your managers are super important. So I kind of had to deal with that obstacle, how to communicate and deliver the message more effectively. And I managed to navigate through these obstacles. I worked, social skills was another one. I worked on that. So I managed to navigate through these obstacles. And it took me maybe about 2 or 3 years, for me to fully navigate through the obstacles that I was given at my job. Now it's to the point where I have full trust within my management team. We communicate with each other all the time. Like a week prior, if there's changes, they'll let me know right away. They send me the schedule so I don't miss a day of work. And also too, learning how to trust my coworkers know that they have my back when it comes to doing the job. So it takes time, but I managed to navigate those obstacles. Now I'm basically becoming a very good, well-rounded worker in the spa and the gym in the Bellagio. I do more than the gym now.
So what is a day in the life of a gym attendant like?
The day of life of a gym attendant is you go into work, you put your stuff down, of course, you clock in, you say hi to say hi, depends on the time of the day. And you fold towels. It's best. It's it's easy to lose focus in a day life of gym attendant, because you're folding towels, you're wrapping up headphones, you're cleaning them, you're getting guest interaction services, you're giving them lockers, you're communicating with people all the time on what the gym needs. So if the trainer is not there to work, they're not there to help, not there, he's busy, he or she are busy training, you're going to have to be the one to manage the whole entire gym when they're not there. You have to manage everything, make sure your guest safety is good, walk around the gym to make sure everybody around the gym is all right. So it's a big responsibility. In my opinion, personally, I think being a gym attendant is probably one of the biggest responsibilities as life in working in the gym, because the trainer's not always going to be around. So you have a big responsibility to make sure that gym and everybody around you is all right. Walk around the gym. If the water coolers run out of water, go replace it with another jug of water, and make sure the gym stays clean, and make sure all the machines and everything is working. So it's really a lot of moving around. I could be talking to you, Ozma and Stephanie. You could be my two people I'm talking to in the gym, but I'm also looking at that person, looking over there. I'm also looking over there. I'm also looking over there, looking down, looking up, and side to side. My eyes are shifting side to side to make sure that, okay, I'm going to have this conversation with somebody, but I got to make sure that everything around the gym is all right. So life of gym attendant, it's pretty awesome, actually. I enjoyed the perks, where also you get to work out as well, and you learn a lot more about fitness and health as well.
So how do you balance your work life and your personal life?
I think one of the biggest challenges right there, my dad once had saying, do not let your work life ever affect your growth in your personal life. So finding that balance is kind of a challenge, but it's also two balances where when you're not at work, don't think about what's going on at work. Enjoy your days off. Personal life, like go out with friends, movies, hang out. When you're at work, you're working, but don't bring too much of your personal life into work. Because if you do that, then you lose focus at the task at hand. So finding that balance is not easy, especially when you've been at your job for a long time. So it's important to have a little fun, but by the time you get to work, just leave your personal problems. By the time you clock in, that personal problem should not be there. I mean, your personal life should not be able to impede on your work life, to where you'll lose focus at the task at hand and what you need to do to finish the job, make sure it's done correctly. And everyone has their good and bad days. I get that. So, sometimes it's best just to let stuff roll off your shoulders for those 8 or 9, 10 hours. Let stuff roll off your shoulders, and then get back when you do that. So it's important to have that balance, because basically if your work life goes into your personal life, then you're not be able to grow much as a person outside of work. If you bring your personal life inside your work, then you're going to lose focus at whatever that you're assigned to do that day for your job. So it's important to have that good balance of the personal life is hanging out with friends, hanging out with family. If you compete in sport, if you are a student, it's important to have that balance. It'll help you with your work life when it comes like dealing with people, dealing with different guests, different customers, or different coworkers that have different complete personalities than you. So when you have that balance, it helps you improve overall as a person. So basically your work life is great, your personal life is great.
That was some pretty awesome advice. Thank you so much, Paul, for telling us about your job and what it's like. And thank you everyone for listening. Bye.
Thanks for having me.